starting point for the video and the audio to match, right?
Excellent.
There we go. Hello again from Grove Studios in Ypsilanti, Michigan. I'm John Bomarito. It's another Acoustic Alternatives podcast. Grove Studios, as I've mentioned in previous podcasts, is a studio in Ypsilanti that you can rent space if you're a band or a DJ or a podcaster to get out of the garage and get into a studio where you're not annoying your neighbors, unless their neighbors happen to be me today. You have a band down the hall that might or might not interrupt our session a little bit, but I'm very happy to welcome the rough and tumble Mallory and Scott are joining me for a session today, and it's good to see both of you. You look fantastic.
Hey,
Thank you.
Thanks.
It's great to be here.
The
Great
road
to
is
be seen.
the road is good to you.
Yeah.
Most of the time?
Yeah, I'm not sure how good we are to the road, but
Yeah.
the road has been good to us these
Yeah.
past few weeks.
For sure.
Well, we're going to dig into your history a little bit
boy.
after. I think we start with a song, though.
Yeah.
I think a song would be a great way to
That
start.
sounds good.
Let's do it.
What are we
you
doing?
want to do?
Let's do
Alabama?
Let's do Alabama.
Start with a love song, kind of, sort of love song.
Kind of sort of love song.
This is from our EP, Love is Gross, but it looks good on you.
Looks like this.
Ready? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. I woke up this morning in Alabama, just in time to see the sun wake up the trees, just in time to hear the trees wake up the birds, just in time to find that I woke up in Alabama. Well, you were still asleep in Tennessee. I'm not looking for a way to say I'm sorry, just because I fell in love with someone new, just because he says that he will love me too, just because we're wide awake in love in Alabama. Well, you were still asleep in Tennessee. There's room in your dreams for me, left a note on my pillow or a breadcrumb or 3. If it comes a surprise that I'm not by your side when you wake up in Tennessee, just open your eyes. I woke up this morning in Alabama, just in time to see the sun wake up the trees, just in time to hear the trees wake up the birds, just in time to find that I woke up in Alabama, right next to the one who loves me.
You wake up to him all the time. What do you think?
Well, now I do.
Well, the rough and tumble are my guests today on Acoustic Alternatives, Mallory and Scott. Teeny tiny folk band from, and there's no answer for that.
There is no answer to that. Not
From
yet anyway.
Ellipses.
Yeah.
Ellipslantes.
Yeah, I think it's pronounced ellipses. That's how you pronounce it.
So Nashville formed, but really the home is the home that's in the parking lot, right?
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah, right next
about,
to the tow truck that's making us so nervous.
So
No.
very nervous. Yeah, yeah. We did live in East Nashville for about 5 years,
5
and
years?
then almost 8 years ago, we sold everything we owned, bought a 16-foot camper, and have been living out of that with 2 dogs and now a hamster that we found in a glue trap.
What?
Yeah. We were taking a walk down in Florida, and there was just this. We thought it was a mouse in a glue trap, and
So we
still
got
alive.
it. Yeah, we got the mouse off of the glue trap, and then we sent a picture of the mouse to the wildlife center, and we were like, "Oh, we found this very rare mouse. Where do you want me to release it back? It's fine now." And they were like, "Don't release it back because that is not a mouse. That is
not
a
a wild
hamster."
creature, yeah.
So
So now we have a hamster
now
named
we have
Goo.
a hamster.
Fair enough.
We've had her for about a year and a half now.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's still like running around on her wheel.
Doing her
We're
thing.
hamster powered.
I'm a dog person. I have to meet your dogs before you guys go.
Oh,
okay?
yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
They're crazy.
They are crazy. Yeah.
They're not. I mean, no, they're actually
they're
one
great
of them's
dogs.
one half of them is calm.
Yeah.
One half of the three, the two.
the-
sorry.
of the
The
two.
two,
So
Yeah.
that's like a quarter.
I mean,
Yeah, it kind of balances out the humans.
yeah.
Well, you just played a song from this delicately handmade EP, which is called Love is Gross, but it looks good on you. And over the years, you've released a variety of different kinds. Like, this is a professionally made CD. And I've got, like, very early things that come in paper bags. And
Yes.
you're so crafty. I mean, I don't know what you expect from it. And then the newest thing, really, I mean, I think it's the newest, Everything Goes Viral But My Band, is digital only.
It is.
It
yeah.
is.
Like, well, make up your
Yeah.
mind, will you?
Well, yeah.
What's it gonna be?
Everything Goes Viral, but my band was such a weird situation too because it spans. It happened while we were in lockdown, initially, and it was all songs that were commissions. Like people reached out to us and said, "Can I commission a song for you since you don't have any work?" And we were like, "Yes." So, but we only had at the time
A cassette tape recorder, like one of those Tascam 4-track cassette tape recorders, and
we were staying in Scott's parents' house at the time, and so we it like was a real throwback to Scott's childhood of like recording on cassettes and sneaking his girlfriend in.
Right. I didn't have a girlfriend when
No, you didn't.
I was
You're
being
the,
generous.
you're the best thing that ever
I
happened.
think so, yeah. And so so that project, we just tossed it up online because it was lockdown, you know, and
And then
what
it just
what a
sort of
weird time that was.
continued. So it was like it's like a 2-year project, and so like you can hear the technology getting better as it goes.
But it's definitely varying degrees of quality. I mean, not that the songs aren't quality, but the recording
no,
quality
for
is
sure.
different.
And it's just kind of what we had and we made do, and it was fun. Some of those songs we've re-recorded or have marked down for future use as well. So.
Well, When It's Over was my favorite from that collection, just for the record.
Oh,
Yeah.
great!
Oh,
And that
that's-
made it on the Love Is Gross.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Glad to hear
Oh,
it.
good. That's
Yeah.
good to hear.
And just so you feel better about this, the latest Patty Griffin album, you may or may not know, is a collection of things that she recorded on cassettes that
no
had never
kidding.
been released. Just
funny.
little.
Like cassette tapes are terrible. Everybody knows that.
course.
But like we have this real soft spot for
We do.
cassette tapes and for the albums that were recorded on them, you know.
Yeah. I mean, my first recordings were all on cassette. Like I had my mom bought me a little karaoke machine so I could like record myself singing so I could hear myself back and then, wildly critique myself. I have no trauma whatsoever. And
This album says differently.
Yeah.
that's fair.
Gotcha. I pay attention.
Oh man, you have been doing your research, yeah. So, but yeah, I do have a soft spot for cassettes for that reason. Like that's how I heard music. Not only just heard music for the first time, but heard myself for the first time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Me too, actually. I mean, it's a weird little. You probably don't remember these things that were released in the 60s and 70s, but this guy, Dickie Goodman, used to make records that were interviews with people, and he would sample hit records for the answers. So he would ask whoever a question, and then the answer would be a little blip of a song.
Oh, cool.
I used to make those myself when I
Yeah.
was
Oh,
young, like with
cool.
my limited record collection,
Sure.
answering with ELO and whatever. So yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I love that.
I have those. Somebody transferred them to CD for me from this like Kmart cassette tape that probably is as brittle as
Yeah.
Oh,
as bone at this point.
That's fantastic. It's
pretty fun to
You know,
listen to.
that is something that we kind of miss in like the digital world where, everything is up on Spotify or Apple Music, and but you do miss like that ability to make something with with other people's recorded music. Like
Yeah.
a playlist is great. It's easy to do, but it's not the same as,
Like physically making something with your hands in this way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why we hearken back to that with, the Love is Gross CD where we hand stamped all of them and, that's our handwriting on it. It was...
It's not numbered, but yeah. It's
yeah,
cool.
exactly. Yeah.
I know. We've heard from a few DJs who are upset.
No, I'm not upset. It's just like almost expected. You've gone that far, you may as well number them too.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 1 of 100. So, but it, it's nice to get something musical, physically, physical and musical at the same time. So,
Yeah.
Well, if it's not an uncomfortable subject, I always like to get into the background of the people who are in the studio with me, like your childhood, Mallory. Unfortunately, might be traumatic, but
I mean, I already put it on a record. May as well.
I know,
put
but
it
I
on
mean,
the record.
where did you grow up?
I grew up in Western Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah, I grew up in just north of Pittsburgh by about 45 miles in an old steel town that was shut down. And it is now becoming almost a suburb of Pittsburgh as the city is growing. But when I grew up there, it was just kind of a beat down town, and among a lot of really beat down people who always felt like they were being slighted. So I've traveled, we've obviously traveled a lot in the country. And when I say I'm from Western Pennsylvania, I will often get a response of people who say, "Oh, that's a mean part of the country," and they are not wrong. Like it tends to be, or at least when, during my childhood, there is this persona of roughness. I mean, they were hit maybe the hardest during the Great Depression when all the steel mills shut down. I'm trying not to slip into my Western PA accent.
But it happens.
Still mills, when all the still mills were shut down. But it's a bedraggled sort of area that almost prides itself on being bedraggled, and I think when you really focus on the ways that you were slighted, you become that in this way. And so that's the region, and then there's also my family on top of that. But yeah. But enough about me.
Also terribly beautiful. It's
that is the thing, right?
That's the contrast.
Yeah, it is incredibly beautiful there. Like I am a firm believer that there are two kinds of people. There are tree people and there are sky people. And there are people who feel safer in the trees, and there are people who feel safer in open skies. And I'm definitely a tree person, and I attribute that to being from Western PA, because you were always kind of wrapped in this blanket of which could make you claustrophobic. I could see that.
How did you entertain yourself as a kid? What did you do for fun?
I spent a lot of time in the woods, and I spent a lot of time listening to music and playing on my karaoke machine and singing. And I grew up with 3 older siblings. I was the youngest of 4, and I was definitely not the favorite of the siblings among the siblings.
You're my favorite.
Yeah, thank you.
Me too.
But it was sort of a childhood of a lot of imagination, because I didn't have a lot of playmates within the family, and so I made a lot of friends as well. And so no real complaint. I mean, other than all the complaints we put on the record, no real complaints with the way that I grew up in the sort of I also watched a ton of television, you know what I mean? And it wasn't like I was completely restricted or cut off from the outside world. But I spent a lot of time in the woods, just thinking and writing, and my mom was very encouraging of that. So,
nice. What was your favorite TV show?
Oh, don't make me pick that.
Okay, then
There were so many. I watched so much TV. I actually was going to be a film and TV radio major, because I was a major in that, because I just loved TV so much. But
it's really funny, as we'll be driving down the road, Mallory will just get a jingle stuck in her head, and I'll say, what
is that?
What did
and I'm
you
like,
just
you know
sing?
that, you know that.
Yeah,
And
it's
he's
from the 80s, or 90s,
Yeah, and then I'll have to track it down on the internet, and I am just full of jingles, and
because of all the TV you watched.
Because of all the TV I watched. Yeah,
I probably have that same problem from a different era, since I'm a bit older than you. But I still quote things that were only relevant to me from whatever time period I spent time watching TV.
Yeah.
What about karaoke machine? What were you singing along to? Mariah Carey, Bon
Karen
Jovi?
Carpenter mostly.
Karen Carpenter, nice.
Yes, I loved Karen Carpenter, and so I listened to her constantly, and then would try and mimic her voice back. And
beautiful voice.
It is an incredible voice. And so I also listened to a lot of 90s country, and so that was the main wash of music, other than hymns and church music. I was always listening to 90s country, and so I spent a lot of time trying to just imitate other women's voices, because I loved it, because it was a fun thing to try and do with my voice, and it was something that I could do, and I could spend hours of time kind of dedicating to doing that. So I'm kind of grateful for all of the solitude, because I'm self-taught in that way, out of boredom.
Out of boredom. Favorite Carpenter song?
Oh, dang. I do.
I'll go Superstar.
See, Superstar is not my favorite because I once made a karaoke tape for, this is so weird. My oldest sister, I didn't know she was making fun of me at the time, and she will admit it now.
Okay.
She's the one that I talked to. We're actually friends now, but she made fun of me so hard. But her best friend was obsessed with Karen Carpenter, and so she had me make a karaoke tape of Karen Carpenter. And I remember singing Superstar on there as well. And she gave it to her friend for his birthday. And I just remember them singing over and over again, baby, 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 oh, baby, like that. And I was so embarrassed that, like, every time I think of that song, I just think
Sorry.
of, you know, that.
More trauma. John, good job.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
move on to Scott so I can relieve Mallory. Sorry. I'm just trying to do a good interview, Mallory. Come on. I'm not trying to hurt you. Scott.
No. I'm totally fine now.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Now, yeah.
What's your background, Scott? Where are you from?
I grew up in Dinuba, California, which is it's there in the Central Valley of California. It's the former raisin capital of the world.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Former.
I love raisins.
Oh, I do too.
Very few people who does.
Yeah, you would love Dinuba.
You would have.
You would have loved it.
Back when they were.
The raisin capital of the world. Now they've moved on to oranges and stuff, but they still have a Raisin Day parade and,
Oh,
and
good.
used to
Thank
have a raisin queen.
Oh,
And,
okay.
Well,
and all that, so.
tell him that your grandma knew.
My
this-
grandma knew the original Sun-Maid lady.
The one that's on the
Yeah,
package?
yeah.
No
the,
way.
The model they used for
Small
that.
world.
so,
Can I
yeah.
have your autograph?
Yeah, I know, right?
And what was it like growing up there? I mean, was it too much sunshine and
You know, it was a lot of sunshine, and
not like Pennsylvania?
no, not like Pennsylvania. It, although probably not as much sunshine as they're getting now. It's, you know, it was a very, very dusty place. We grew up in the country and played a lot of basketball. Got into music kind of early on. Played saxophone growing up, and actually one of the first songs I remember playing was on the saxophone was the Carpenters. What's their very famous
On
one?
the top of the world.
No, not that one. The
Oh.
We've only just begun.
we've only just begun. Why am I not remembering this? It's the
Boy, this is embarrassing.
the Eyes of Blue, Stardust in Your Hair.
On the day that you were born, the angels got together.
Yeah, we can only sing that much though for the radio,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, can't do
yeah,
covers.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
But yeah, played a lot of saxophone. Got into guitar in junior high, and just kind of really took to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, so
Did you play in the high school band or anything like that?
I did. Yeah. I played saxophone in the high school band, and we were taking this trip to my senior year of high school. The band was taking a trip to the St. Patrick's Day Parade in New York, and weeks before that, I was playing basketball and I tore my ACL. And
Sick brag about basketball.
yeah. I was going up for. I missed the layup though, so but I was going up for a layup and I missed, or my leg went out and I tore my ACL, and so there's a video of me not marching down Fifth Avenue, but being rolled in a wheelchair by the school principal, you know, just freezing because it was snowing and all that, and I wasn't
You're from
moving anything.
California.
And I was from California, so
Doesn't snow there.
didn't
much.
know what snow was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you both took a musical path and found
Yeah.
yourselves meeting somewhere along the line. Where did you meet?
We met on Martha's Vineyard.
Was James Taylor there?
No. but we went
Potentially.
to- well,
Well,
He
we
didn't
went to
introduce
Carly
you?
Simon's store.
yeah, Carly Simon had a store at the time, and we both played at what used to be her. She had a club called
Hot Tin Roof.
Hot Tin Roof,
Mm-hmm.
and
It was called Outerlands when we were there.
Mm-hmm. but there used to be a music school there that kind of a study off campus program for college students, and that's where we met. Kind of hit it off. We both ended up in.
We kind of hit it off.
I hit it off. Or
You thought you
you
hit
hit
it
it off more with me than I guess I hit it off with you. But I did enjoy playing music. with
yeah,
you.
we were kind of friends.
We were
I
sort of
guess.
friends. We both ended up in Asheville, North Carolina, where we joined an ill-fated artist commune. A couple years later, Mallory moved to Nashville, Tennessee. I followed her 6 months later, and we started this group, kind of just as a writing project that turned into to what it is now.
Yeah, because I was doing something totally. I was doing a rock and roll thing at the time, and Scott was doing sad stuff, I guess.
Just sad singer-songwriter stuff,
If
You know the genre.
If emo had a folk
Exactly.
genre.
Yeah.
exactly.
Emo
Yeah.
folk.
It's emo with beards.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but then, we started writing because we were writing songs that didn't fit what we were doing. And we were like, well, this will be fun. We'll just finish each other's songs and sandwiches.
Sentences and sandwiches.
Yeah. And so we, I don't know. It happened really, it happened so naturally that I didn't realize it was happening. And so like when we started writing together, about a month or two later, Scott was like, we should name this project. And I was like, I mean, we can if you really want, like if you need a name for it, but like it's not anything. Like you name it whatever you want. That's fine.
This isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, this isn't going anywhere, but like I'm happy to go along for the ride sort of thing. And then we named it The Rough and Tumble. And then now we're 11 years later, and it's still not going anywhere.
And I think you like each other more than you did when you met.
Yeah. No, that is
No, we were
certainly
best
true.
friends
Yeah.
by that time, and then a couple years later, we realized, we should also date.
Yeah.
It would make this
That'd
very
be
convenient if we
really-
were dating.
And less awkward.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
awkward.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take a break from the chat and have you sing another song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Tight as I can.
Yeah.
We'll do
let's-
another
let's
from
do as fast as I can.
we'll do another from Love is Gross. This is the song. So a lot of the songs on Love is Gross were commissioned love songs because people like us, whenever they want a song written, want it written for someone they love. And we were like, we don't really do love songs. And they were like, no, we are going to pay you money for them. And we were like,
yeah, we totally do love
love
songs.
We
Lots
love
of
love
love songs.
songs. Yeah. So after all these other love songs came in for all these other people, I was like, wait a second, I don't have a love song. And so I commissioned
She
Scott.
commissioned me.
She said, you have 2 weeks. Yeah. And so he wrote this song, and then he complained that I never paid him for it, but I also helped him finish it.
That's true. Yeah.
So
Here we go. This is As Tight as I Can. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Here I sit, trying to write a song for you. You read poetry you found in a yard. Words don't come easy, gotta stretch 'em out before you push 'em through. Having love so strong for you is never hard. There are songs about leaving, songs about grieving, but here's a song about holding on as tight as I can. I'm gonna hold on to you as tight as I can. I love to kiss you when you're madder than a diatribe, when you smile out of the corner of your eye. You love surprises, but you don't like to be surprised when the kick drum hits you in the heart and makes you cry. There are songs about leaving and sad songs for grieving, but here's a song about holding on
as tight as I can.
as tight as I can.
As tight as I can.
I'm gonna hold on to you
As tight as I can.
as tight as I can.
As tight as I can.
I'm gonna hold on to you.
As tight as I can.
I've heard to be a man in love, you gotta act like a man in love. As if a little hard work and spit shine will have to do. I've turned it over taste of sour on my tongue. 'Cause I'm a man in love whenever I'm with you. 'Cause I'm a man in love whenever I'm with you.
The Rough and Tumble are my guests today on Acoustic Alternatives. Thank you for doing that one from Love is Gross, which is it really available physically anymore? Or do I have one of the very few?
You have one of the last ones.
You do.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, we have no more.
Yeah, we only made 100, and well, because it takes a lot of work to send to make mixtapes for all of your 100 closest friends.
It does. Thanks for including me in that little group. So most of the time, as we mentioned, is spent on the road. Who drives the most?
Scott.
I drive the most. Mallory navigates and kind of makes sure that we get to where we're supposed to go, which you'd think would be easier than it is with technology, but it's we haul this 16-foot camper, and so that always adds just this other element of danger,
Yeah.
And,
And looking ahead. Yeah.
so
I won't say that we get into fights whenever Scott's navigating.
yeah, no. I will say it though. We get into fights whenever I am navigating. So
You could let Siri do it for you.
yeah.
Shut up. That's not where I want to go.
Yeah.
Do the dogs ever drive, or do they not? They don't have a license.
They're the least useful animals we've ever met.
Oh my goodness.
They don't do anything. They sometimes will sell a T-shirt. That's it.
Yeah, actually, last night we played 20 Front Street, and we really leaned into the fact that if people don't buy T-shirts, our dogs do not eat. So
It's a guilt trip.
it is, yeah.
That's a good job.
Yeah, we let them know it's fine if they want to go home with that on their conscience.
Okay, sweet. What's the scariest thing that's happened on the road? I mean, the trailer kind of like pushing you down a mountain, I imagine, would be one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
was.
a big one.
We burnt out a bearing a couple times there in the axle of our, they're on the camper.
That was pretty scary.
That was scary because there was just no way to move it, and
We were like right on the border of Nebraska and South Dakota. Is that the time you're thinking of? Yeah, and so there was nobody around. Like we called our insurance company, we called AAA, we called everyone, and they were like, "Yeah, nobody's gonna help you there." And we were like, "Cool.
What do I do?
we're stuck.
Yeah, we were totally stuck.
So we
but-
found this one tow truck driver who was maybe 30 miles away, and he drove up. His name was Pat. He drove up.
Pat Bergen.
Pat Bergen. He drove up, and he
He's
towed
like,
us.
He was like, "Nobody's gonna help you here." I guess I will. That's what he said.
So he actually took us back to his garage there
Yeah.
at his house,
Uh-huh.
and packed us some new bearings and
Taught us how to pack our own bearings.
Uh-huh.
And
we
then,
stayed up till like 12:30, 1 o'clock.
But do you remember though that the trade-off though he said was, "I will fix this here tonight if afterwards I can show you my antique Jeep collection." Do you
right.
remember that?
Wow,
So we
that's right.
finished packing our bearings at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "Well, deal's a deal." And then he opened up his garage and we had to look at every one of his antique Jeeps when there were so many.
So many antique
So
Jeeps, yeah.
We got to bed at like 3 a.m. and slept in his junkyard,
Mm-hmm.
left at 7 a.m. and got to Manhattan, Kansas the next day for a show. It was...
He needs his own song, you realize.
Oh,
I
he
know.
really
we
does,
dedicated
yeah.
the next night's show to him, but
Of course.
what was his? He gave us a giant pen. It was like a 1-foot pen, and he hands them out, and he said, "I want your toes without losing your." What was it?
With
It was such a funny thing. We should look it up again. Good old Pat.
yeah. I want
Funny
your
guy.
toes without costing you an arm and a leg.
Yes,
May-
that's what it
maybe?
was.
Yeah.
I want your toes without costing you an arm and a leg.
Toes. I get it.
Yeah.
Toes. All right. So the last time we got to. I like a good pun. I really do. I'm banging into microphones as I hit my head. We last got together in this kind of format of
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your plans, as I listened back to that interview,
Aw.
for the summer of 2020 included driving to Alaska.
To Alaska.
Did you make it?
We did not.
No.
No, they we
The borders were shut down.
Wow.
And by the time we figured out that we couldn't go, it was too late to.
Yeah,
like-
it takes so much momentum to get up to Alaska,
Uh-huh.
especially in a camper and trying to book shows along the way. It didn't happen. So we have not yet made it to Alaska.
I know.
One of these days,
One of these
we
days.
might end up flying. I don't know.
But that also figures into your decision as to whether the resting spot of your your camper is, because you told me,
Yeah.
once you go to Alaska, then now
Then-
we've been everywhere we really want to go.
Yeah.
Then we
And
can
we
decide.
Exactly.
So you still haven't decided.
So we still haven't
Yeah,
decided.
Here
it's
we
still up in the air. We're still, still in the camper for
For
the
now.
foreseeable
yeah,
future.
For the foreseeable
I
future,
mean,
yeah.
so long as the axle holds.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't, we've been through 5. We can keep going.
We can keep
Going. Well, the comic strip also happened back then. Did that have like a
Yeah.
1-year life, or did it keep going after that?
It had a 2-year life, and then we dropped it. We were just
Yeah.
sort of like, it kind of had run its course, and we kind of wanted to let our friend Steve, who was doing it, off the hook too.
Yeah, he
we
ended
felt
up-
like we had to start paying him at a certain point. We didn't want to pay.
We didn't
him.
want to pay him, so no. He went to radiology school and
Yeah.
is, you know.
You wanted to make a real living?
Exactly.
Yeah, like an
Yeah.
actual living.
Cartoons.
Surprisingly, riding on the coattails of folk singers does not get you
Does
far.
not get you very far.
I don't know any folk singers with a comic strip other than you guys.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. I don't know about that. What about the book? You were talking about a travel book, I think.
We were kind of talking about that a little bit, and I'm not sure where we've landed on that just
Yeah,
yet.
yeah,
We've been
there-
doing more writing though. Like both of us have been kind of writing more outside of songs, and that's been interesting, I think, but not something that we've landed firmly on.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a lot of time for these ideas to percolate, and I think back in 2019 we had a lot of ideas, and
And then our dreams were crushed.
yeah, and then we got different ideas,
That's true.
and I think that happened with a lot of people. Like I think about the pandemic, and I think about all of the bands that no longer are playing shows. I think about all the bands that we're gonna make one CD and it was gonna be great, but they ended up making this other CD, and it's maybe just as great, but it's a different CD. I think
It is,
I think we are all different people coming out of the pandemic,
Yeah.
and
How did you survive? Because playing shows is your livelihood. Was it commissioning the songs? That's really...
Commissioning
Yeah,
the
song
songs.
commissions.
And we weren't moving, and so that kind of took out a lot of our cost of living. We were fortunate to be able to stay with Scott's parents at the time for about 4 months. At the time, we were like, 2 weeks, and then it blows over. We can hang out with Scott's parents for 2 weeks. And then 4 months later, we were like, we do need to leave.
Yeah, but we also ended up staying in some friends like extra houses. We were in a cabin in the woods in South Carolina.
Where the movie Deliverance was filmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was no heat except for a wood stove. There was no internet, cell phone service. We had to hike out to a waterfall to get 1 bar of service. We actually listened to the election on the radio. That's how we found out everything.
It's a real throwback.
It was a real throwback. Yeah.
That's living.
Yeah.
Well, the book was going to be called, I think, America from the Rest Stops, but maybe it's also from the...
That's right.
Oh yeah.
something along the lines of that. Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah.
I took notes.
Yeah, you must have.
Well, I was,
Yeah.
I was listening back to what we talked about. I'm like, what are we going to talk about this time? So I imagine, though, being the kind of touring musicians that you are, that overseas dates are a little bit more challenging because
Yeah.
you can't exactly take that thing.
Yeah, you don't really float the camper.
But do you ever find yourself getting there anyway?
We dream of it,
Oh,
I think. We do. We dream of it, and we would really, more now. I think pre-pandemic, we kind of were like, no, we're pretty happy right now. We enjoy the back and forth. We enjoy it. But during the pandemic, all of a sudden it was like, I want to go. I want to leave. And I think a lot of people got that itch too. Like suddenly these places that had no appeal whatsoever, they really wanted to go to. And that was us too. We kind of just said, it's time to start thinking about, going overseas. I think it's the camper element, but I think it's also the dog element. Like one of our dogs is getting older, and we think of it in terms of do we want to leave during these last prime years for however many months? And we're suckers is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. We're real big suckers. And so, I don't know, we kind of balance we're not ever going to not have dogs either. So we need to consider that can't be a factor in going overseas, but
Fair enough.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when your hobby became your job, did that change your approach to songwriting at all? Or were you just writing what you were feeling anyway?
We were writing what we were feeling. Before we went full time, I was working at a coffee shop, and Mallory was a nanny and was doing various odd jobs in Nashville. And we always, I mean, we got into doing music because we liked writing songs. And I think the idea back then was, you know, you write a song about what you're feeling, and you also write a song about what you're not feeling, and you try and write a song about what somebody else is feeling, and you know, and at the end of the day, you might have, you know, a good song, and so when we moved into the camper, I think we did start writing about the road and the places we've been, and I think that really is kind of, that perspective maybe is something that opened up for us.
But then after we were out there longer, I feel like we, the excitement of the road kind of wore, and it became normal. Not that it wore off, but it became more normal. And so then we were sort of able to move more internally, and that's when we sort of excavated, like, we're only family if you say so. Like, that's when those sort of things, because the day-to-day life of just surviving out there was no longer, you know, the most pressing thing on our brains. We were able to sort of, like, we had the luxury almost of having no ties anywhere, but also being able to go deeper and figure those things out. And so I think We're Only Family If You Say So kind of came on the end of, the road is crazy and exciting, and here's like some really hard relationships from our 20s that we wanted to sing about, and these, like, you know, love relationships. And then we went, cool, we're in our 30s now, we're not only surviving, we're not worried about feeding ourselves, let's figure out where some of this, you know, excess darkness, but also this excess creativity is coming from. And so that's where family came from, I think. And now, I don't know, we're writing, we're just, this month actually, we set out in June to write a song a day, on any day that is not a show day. Like, we have limits here. And we just finished. Today's July 1st, and so we just finished, and we ended up with 11 songs out of the 16 days that we didn't have shows. And
It's
so
another album.
yeah, and we've already collected these other songs that we're excited about, and so we're going to try and figure out which ones are going. But I've noticed in this last month that the place we're writing from now, it doesn't seem to emulate the road, and it doesn't seem to emulate this, you know, childhood trauma or these darker places, but it seems to be, I don't want to call it prophetic because that sounds very weird, but it seems to be almost grasping at this other place that we're not even sure of yet. And I think sometimes when you write yourself into your future, and I think that's what we've been doing lately. Do you think that's true?
I think that's true.
Are we just talking about it for the first time right now?
We are, yeah.
In front of me, a camera and a recording device.
Exactly, yeah.
Awesome. Glad I could be there.
Yeah.
You guys are pretty prolific, though. I mean, for as long as you've been doing this, you have I only have a few of them in front of me, but a pretty deep catalog. You're regularly releasing records and on the road. I mean, you got to find time to stop and record them.
Yeah.
I imagine you sell merch at shows, but there's also the digital world, which to me is not my favorite world because I'd rather hold things. So thank you for doing this. Which of your songs, though, has performed best as a digital song? Which one brings you the royalty checks that get mailed to who knows where because you don't have a mailbox?
So there's this song Pieces and Pieces, which we originally wrote for...
That's an old one. That's
it
from
is.
the first album, right?
Yeah, 2015. Wrote it for a soundtrack for a short film about PTSD among women exiting the military. And we filmed a music video for it, but Mallory's sister sent us a link to this podcast called Welcome to Night Vale, which is this kind of science fiction podcast. But
we love it.
We do love it. It's but during every episode, they take a break to go to the weather, which is, you know, a song that is played. And so I think that song, we entered that song, it made it onto the podcast, and we've got a bunch of streams from that. But,
because of that, yeah.
Nice.
So,
well, seeing you guys live is a great way to connect with your music because you always tell the story behind the song, which I think is important for this kind of music. Yeah. So before you do your next song, give me a story.
Yeah.
You want to do Joni?
Yeah, let's do Joni.
Well, this is kind of obvious what this is about. How did you write it anyway? Give me a story.
Yeah, we had just, so Joni is a song that we started writing we had just visited some friends in South Dakota, and they're both in their 80s, they're mid 80s, and they returned. She's originally from South Dakota, and she returned back there, and they started, I think just about 10 years ago, they started regenerational farming out there, which is a very controversial thing to be doing in South Dakota because you're surrounded by all this big ag, and if you're choosing to not use pesticides, to not do all this, and to also like try and get the land back to a place where it's kind of self-thriving, it can make you kind of stick out in your community. But they are also people who love their community and are trying very hard to do them well and to be kind and to bring music into their community. And they're just all around wonderful people. But they told us this story about how in this particular part of South Dakota, there are no longer any natural pheasants because of the hunting industry that has come in. And so there's these people are flying in from California and from New York and all these big, who want to have this hunting experience. And so they've killed off all of the natural pheasants, and they are now farm raising these pheasants, and they put them all in a bag, and right before the hunters come in, they swing them around and then throw them out so that everybody's always guaranteed to take home a pheasant. Yeah. And so it's just this crazy, new industry that's being born in South Dakota. And because everybody's trying to protect these farm-raised pheasants, they're now killing off the hawks, who sometimes will kill the pheasants.
Killing off the coyotes.
They're killing off the coyotes. And so they're just destroying this whole ecosystem in order to accommodate these people who are flying in for a weekend to have a bachelor party. Yeah. And we just that's pretty startling. That's a pretty startling story to hear about in the prairie. But after we left, we started writing this song, and we were still in the mode of writing for We're Only Family If You Say So. And I got to thinking a lot about my childhood and how it was such a weird split, because on one hand, I'm only allowed to listen to Christian music, but then on the other hand, my mom is slipping me Joni Mitchell and Janis Joplin under the door. And on one hand, I'm learning, we had about 85 acres growing up at this cabin in the woods, and I'm learning about the names of the trees and the preservation of the land. And on the other hand, my dad is an excavator doing commercial developments who's angry whenever these surveyors come out to try and protect the wetlands. And he's saying, it's all in God's time. It's all, it's all the Lord's work, and so I'm living in this constant dichotomy between taking care of the earth and destroying it and making a living on it, So Joni came from a very rich, many stories, but it also came out so simply. We were just sitting in Nebraska, and I was like, we had to write this song.
Yeah, and I mean, boiled down, it's simply, what would the world be like if we had listened to Joni Mitchell? Yeah. And so that is this song. It's called Joni.
Why didn't we listen to Joni and the song that she had sung? She was crying for our apples, now we're crying for the spots on our lawn. Farmer gotta make a living, corporate gonna cut their dime. Why didn't we listen to Joni back when we had the time? Why don't we listen to the red tail? Why don't we go and let them fly? Pheasant won't make it through winter, but it's not under hawk's eye. There's big business in the prairie, and the commissioner's gone blind. Why don't we listen to the red tail while we still have the time? While we have the time. Why don't we listen to the call in the wilderness? wilderness and the warm October wind. Can hardly breathe between the cornfields that we can't eat and the highway that never ends. There's oil in the water, there's war inside those drums. When will we listen to the call? When will we listen to the call? While we have the time.
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 While we have the time. I was listening to Joni on a cold autumnal day. Was in a big yellow taxi I watched take my old man away. Said he gotta make a living and the Lord will come in time. He can't hear me or Joni, can't even hear the spotted apple of his eye. Ooh, bop, 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 ooh, bop, 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 ooh, bop, 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 ooh, ooh.
Truly one of your best.
Oh.
Joni is the name of the song, The Rough and Tumble, here on Acoustic Alternatives. You can find that on the album, or Only Family if you say so. And now with the backstory, I understand how it fits in with the family dynamic. I
Yeah.
didn't necessarily, the song stands out because of just it's a well-written song and it gets you. But now I understand why it fits into
Yeah.
the family stories.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a song on a record. It seems out of place.
Yeah. You know,
Should have been higher up on the track list.
as we got to thinking about, family, like it got to be this thing where, like, what isn't,
What
part of a
isn't
family relationship, and and what isn't a relationship between neighbors too, so
I noted that was the follow-up to an album that you released that in the liner notes you say was recorded during a year of honesty. And this is a little bit more honesty to follow up the year of honesty.
Yeah, that's true. That's right, because Howling Back at the Wounded Dog, that was our year of honesty. Yeah, that's right.
Just a little
Oh, man, that's crazy.
observation of mine when I was kind of reviewing everything.
Yeah.
and talking about it.
honesty is kind of like dominoes, it
You
does
just
have
started
that
it rolling.
effect. Yeah.
Well, speaking of that, then because you guys are on the road together all the time, no couple is perfect. You must argue. How do you find solitude? I mean, you're together.
All the time.
Yeah.
How do we find
How
solitude?
do we find
Scott?
The
solitude? Well,
woods. I imagine it's the woods. Run away to the woods.
It is.
It
We
is,
often
yeah.
will go out to state parks or any sort of wooded area, and then somebody will claim camper and somebody will claim outside, and then we have our separate time. But we also have together solitude as well. I think we do argue. Don't get me wrong, but I think we're pretty lucky in the way that we've both worked toward communicating, and I think we're in a place now in the last couple of years where we communicate what we need, and the other person can then not have to read minds to figure it out, and
Yeah.
I think that goes a long way. So if I say I really need to sit here and read a book and not hear anything, Scott will be like, "Cool, putting on my headphones." And it's sometimes that's all the solitude that we need is just one person sitting on the couch and one person sitting on the bed, but because it is a very small space. But I don't know, we don't often need that anymore like we used to.
Yeah.
As soon as we figured it out that we needed to ask for it, we didn't need it as much.
We also have started kind of finding our own hobbies in
Yeah.
when we have time for hobbies.
Making artwork is a hobby.
Yeah.
True.
And, yeah. Mallory's been making books. She's been building these journals. She's a bookbinder.
I'm a bookbinder.
And so, Mallory will go off and spend 4 hours, at a library building books, and I'll have some time to play guitar, or I've been making these block prints. I've been, carving them out of like
Which is
rubber.
actually what Love is Gross is
Yeah,
part of.
yeah, is a-
I,
is a
I
part.
drew it and he carved it out and made the stamp.
It's like whittling, you know.
Sure.
It's you know
It's
there
like
there are these activities that you can find that
Yeah.
are just really good for your brain, you know,
Yeah.
just to kind of relieve stress.
I think that's funny that you call it whittling because when we first met in our early 20s, you actually said, "I think someday I'd like to become a whittler," and I was like, "Nobody aspires to be a
Aspires to be a
whittler,
whittler.
That's a
but
sentence that's never been spoken before.
Yeah.
Right there. I want to be a whittler. You find it by default.
Yeah.
yeah, you did, you found it."
What about when you get sick? I mean, solitude's harder there. Like, how do you find a doctor when you're on the road? You don't have a regular
primary
doctor.
physician. Yeah, we you know, we've had to go to some ERs. We've had to go to some clinics. We've
Urgent care.
Urgent care, yeah.
urgent care. Yeah, I sliced open my thumb once during a recording session, and yeah, we found an urgent care, you
Right
know,
away.
and
We've been pretty fortunate there as well.
yeah.
Veterinarians is another, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, with dogs, true. Yeah.
we have emails and mail from veterinarians all over this country.
Yeah, we get Christmas cards from veterinary offices from all over the country.
How do they find you? There's no mailing address.
I know it. I know it.
What about insurance, though? I mean, do traveling musicians have insurance?
We do not.
Well,
We do
We
not.
do not have health insurance.
We have car insurance.
We have car insurance. We have
camper insurance.
we have homeowners insurance.
We need to change this.
I know.
Yeah.
There needs to be something that, I mean,
Well, we need to move our residents out of Tennessee.
Yeah,
and
I think that's part of the key.
That would do it. So, but yeah, we borrow a friend's address. I shouldn't be telling you this on the radio.
really the radio.
There are all these workarounds that you could find.
Fair enough. Let's drop it.
Yeah.
You're off the hook. Next subject. Here's a tougher subject. What would happen if there was no coffee?
Oh, okay,
no.
John. Here's the thing. We
This is bad.
This is the hardest thing we've ever done. We this year we
Oh, it's a lot. It's a long build up, though. We
Oh.
quit drinking 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago. 'cause
Coffee
we were-
or alcohol?
Alcohol. And then we started working out, which was cool.
yeah.
And you look
Getting
great.
really super ripped.
Or
Come on.
yeah.
Or we're
Show
just.
off your guts.
or you know it's. we're feeling
Oh
good.
man, I don't want to break the mic.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Not mine.
But
so.
but then it was like this natural progression. But although last year I started having a little bit of vocal trouble, and I went, everything's fine, everything's totally fine, and I'm in really good shape. But we were like, well, let's take some extra precautions. This is the worst decision we've ever made, but we're sticking to it. On show days, we do not drink coffee anymore. We drink tea, and I tell you, the first month of doing this was treacherous for our relationship. Like it was.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know if we were going to we've made it through so much, but I didn't know if we were going to make it through that. But here we are. We haven't
Here we
had
are, yeah.
coffee.
High five.
Yeah,
Would you
today,
have known?
so.
Just
No,
by
I don't
looking
drink
at us?
coffee, so I.
Oh yeah, you see,
know.
it's one of the man. I love coffee. I'm wearing a
I know.
coffee
Coffee
shirt.
shirt.
You know,
We think about coffee on our, like, it'll get to be about 2:00 in the afternoon, and then we'll go, oh man, remember that we get coffee tomorrow morning? Like, it's just like, it's one of those things that we really, really look forward to.
Discipline. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
guys, I admire a lot of like your relationship and your dynamic and your commitment to what you're doing. Seriously. I mean,
Thank
you're a great example of how to be a good couple.
Oh, thanks.
thanks.
I mean that.
Yeah,
I hope we get a
appreciate it.
badge for that.
I know. I want to
There's no badges in here. Sorry.
the John Bomarito Good Couple Awards.
Don't have those yet. I guess we're going to start now. So you've been at it a long enough time to kind of have, I suppose, an idea of where you're headed. And do you have like we want to get to this level and we'll be satisfied? Like, do you want to be playing amphitheaters or you're happy with listening rooms? Is there a band you're trying to achieve the same success level as?
Oh, we don't do that. We try not to compare and despair anymore.
That's fine.
Yeah.
There are aspirations, but I think aspirations quickly turn into despair for us in particular. And we've wasted too much time comparing. So we don't have a band in mind that we would want to follow. But I think we do always want to play bigger spaces. Although I was just telling you the other day, I was like, man, I'm seeing all of these, bands that were like in our field playing the same rooms as us, and now they're on these big stages, and I'm watching, and I was like, I don't want to have to wear those costumes. So whatever the level is that you can get to that you don't have to wear the costumes.
Gotcha.
That's the level that would be
Okay.
good.
So
I'm not against sequins.
400 to 1,000, but
Yeah.
not,
Yes,
not
that's-
15,000 is not so interesting for the amount of people in the room. I
Yes,
mean.
exactly.
Fair enough. So last September, you put out 2 new songs that were written during that time, Pie and Make a Way.
Yeah.
Beautifully passionate expressions of the social, political, and medical turbulence folks have been enduring since March of 2020.
Yeah.
Did those not make it on a record because they just don't fit a theme?
You know, those actually were put out by a small record label in Portland, and they wanted to do just 2 songs, and we thought, you know, we'll
Why not?
stick those on them. We'd written them after the family record, and
Yeah, and they were 2 songs that we felt more urgent about than waiting for a record as well. And I guess they still stand in their urgency, but I don't know. I guess they are kind of these outliers, but we also just kind of wanted the opportunity to experiment. You know, like here's these songs that are relatively simple in their structure, but they're holding a lot of punch, I think. And so we wanted to kind of have that experimentation musically as well in the studio and have time to just kind of pour over a song, as opposed to the way we usually do it, which is run into the studio 1 week, get 10 songs out, go, you know. And so it was kind of a fun way to do that.
Maybe I'm misinterpreting Pie, but it seems like it's more relevant in the last couple of weeks.
like as of
yeah.
last Friday, it is super relevant.
Yeah.
It's a song about women's right to choose, and about the ways that I mean, when we introduce the song, we say that it is clearly only about pie.
That's what we tell them. You can pick any pie.
Yeah.
Yeah, vague, very
Yeah.
vague.
Yeah.
Smart.
Yeah. But no, it is certainly about women's rights, and
Fair enough.
yeah, which are human rights, which we should just state.
Thanks for saying so, Scott.
yeah.
That's really big of you.
So what's next for the duo? What I mean, the 11 songs you just wrote are you plan to record
I think
them?
some of them are going to be, we're going into the studio in September.
Nice.
So
Okay.
I think we have a title. I think we have some of the songs picked out.
Yeah, and
So this was the writing month. July is the paring down which ones are we choosing month. August is the practicing month, rehearsing month, and then September we record.
we record with Dave Coleman down in East Nashville. He's done our last 4 records, and he's a fantastic producer, you know,
He's really
guitarist, all around,
patient,
just
too.
great guy, and
Very patient man.
yeah, but he works really fast, which is
Yeah.
great.
like that.
Yeah.
So
Is Alaska still in the maybe?
2024.
yeah,
Okay,
it's a someday kind of thing.
It is.
It just,
Although sometimes, I don't know.
you know, there are all these artist residency programs up there, and we would love to get into one of those where we would go there for 2 weeks to a month and
Which
write.
would be a different way of experiencing Alaska than the way that we had thought we would. But I think, it's interesting. I don't know. Let's put a ellipses on that. Is that what we're
Ellipses,
calling
yeah.
it?
Yeah. Maybe we'll just take a cruise, you know. And,
I might do that myself someday. We'll see. Well, I love hearing your stories and your songs, and I wouldn't mind if you could do one more
Yeah,
before we
let's
close
do it.
this out.
absolutely, yeah. Thank you, John.
What are you gonna do?
Scotty?
You want to do painters, or do you
Yeah,
want
let's
to
do
do
painters.
nothing?
Oh, either one is fine with me. What would you like?
Let's do painters.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a song we wrote in Michigan.
You like it here?
We love
We
it
do.
here.
Yeah.
We
It's
do,
good
especially
state.
in the summer. I have nothing to say about your winters, but because
Nothing
we
nice.
can't be here.
You could be here, but you don't want to be here. You want to be here in the fall in Upper Michigan as well. Watch the leaves fall.
Oh yeah, I would. Well, future ideas.
Yeah.
Alaska and Michigan in the winter.
Not in the winter, in the fall. You don't want to be here in the winter. Come back in October, go up north.
Oh man,
All right.
this song is called Painter's Sorrow. We wrote it after the Nor'easter Festival a couple years ago. So, ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4. And I've been crying about how I don't belong. And it's not a question, is haven't heard before.
Oh, maybe it's an ancient echo, the moving of the blood. How long, how long, how long, how long?
And you've been saying you wish it was before. Maybe last November when I lost my temper, 'cause you're always needing more.
You miss it by an eyelash, or it's behind another door. How long, how long, how long, how long?
Why is the light never right in this room? Colors are starting to run. Let me get closer and wanna get closer to you. And she stepped up to read our tarot cards. She said all your waiting would bring reward of a pretty young thing along.
Why did we act like strangers and pretend we weren't in love? How long, how long, how long, how long? How long, how long, how long, how long?
Why is the light never right in this room? Colors are starting to run. Let me get closer and wanna get closer, and we are a painter's sorrow on a pale afternoon. Wanna get closer and wanna get closer to you.
Not for all the blue and white that falls in North New England. Can we paint what we don't know?
Why is the light never right in this room? Wanna get closer, yeah. Why is the light never right in this room?
Colors are starting to run.
Wanna get closer and wanna get closer, and
We are a painter's sorrow on a pale afternoon.
wanna get closer and wanna get closer to you. Yeah, wanna get closer to you.
Another track that appears on the 2020 album Our Only Family, If You Say So, Painter's Sorrow with the Rough and Tumble. Thank you to both of you.
Thank you, John.
Speaking of Nor'easter, which was your favorite this year? I mean, maybe act you hadn't seen before and really enjoyed.
Oh man, like our favorite act this year.
This past year that maybe you hadn't seen before, because I know sometimes they have the same acts.
You know, we did see Amy Petty for the first time,
We did.
which was great.
That was
Uh, We
yes.
saw Rachel Davis.
She's amazing.
Who
Oh,
was
man.
Those are
fantastic.
Those are the
Right.
top two for me.
Yeah.
Right there.
Gosh.
Always though. Rochelle Clark and
And
Jason
Jason
Denny,
Denny.
two of our favorites.
Oh,
Oh,
my
and Annie
gosh.
and Rod Capps.
Oh yeah. Don't make us choose.
Don't
yeah,
choose.
yeah.
Never mind. You're done.
The
See ya.
Lucky Nows, Roscoe. Yeah. There are just so many fantastic
Yeah.
bands at a fantastic festival.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. It was good to run into you guys there and
Yeah.
enjoyed your sets.
That's really fun.
Thank you for being part of the podcast.
Of course. Thanks for
Yeah,
asking
thanks for
us.
having us.
Look forward to the next release later this year, or however long
Yeah.
it takes to record and put out. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
seems like it's
We're
pretty quick,
hoping
as you said.
Early 2023. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal anyway.
Yeah.
Very nice. Well, be safe out there, and I look forward to meeting your dogs in a couple minutes.
That sounds great.
Another podcast hopefully coming soon. Thank you again to Grove Studios for being a great host. Grove Studios is the spot that, again, if you're a musician, a DJ, a podcaster, and you need a space to rent to get out of the house and do it somewhere else, this is a place to do it. Thanks to them, and thanks to the Rough and Tumble.